interesting discussion which is relevant to the modern life also, modern days particularly. Anyway, let us enter into the topic directly. There itself we shall see Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay. Now Vedantin has presented his prakriya that by examining the three states, the true nature of Atma will be known. Common man objected, he say, no, when I look at my states, when I watch them, I do not seem to understand how I am free from the world, free from samsara. I do not understand how I am free from samsara by examining the three states. So at that time, a Mulavidya Vadi tried to present his own view. Okay. He presented whole prakriya, how to examine the three states. Yet he told examination of three avasthas is not enough. We need something more than this. Something more than this. Examination of avastha will help you to show the probability of Advaitam. But there is no proof because avidya is there in all the three states. So nobody has any experience of Advaita in one's life. And it's impossible also. Therefore, in our life, all those experiences we have are only Dvaita experiences. We do not have any Advaita experience at all. Therefore, we have to depend purely on the statement of Upanishads. There is no way. We have to depend purely on the statement of the Upanishads, and only Upanishad alone can save us. By our own experiences are not enough. Okay, this is what Mulavidya Vadi's explanation is. Our experiences are not enough. Our experiences don't prove Advaita, because Advaita is not there in our experience. It is an experience yet to come. It is not already an existing experience. It is an experience that we are going to get, and that Upanishad has to teach us by negating the Dvaitam, by destroying avidya. It has to reveal a new experience called Advaita. This is what the Mulavidya Vadi replied. Now we have to analyze the 10th passage in the first chapter of Mulavidya. Those who are holding the book, I'm just reading. First few sentences we have read in the past class. So I'll just quickly go through and then we'll proceed. Vicharasya avashakata. Now there is a need to discuss, need to inquire into this point. What is that? Atha purvoktayoh. First is establishing the necessity to discuss this point. Then he will discuss. First, purvoktayoh shanka samadhanayoh sarasarata vicharayishyate. Now we are going to discuss how far this three stands. One is a Vedantin's stand, other is a common man's stand, third is a Mulavidya Vadin's stand. Three people have their own three stands and they have their own arguments to defend their own views. Now since we have a three stands, we have to analyze and see whose stand is correct. Three stands. One is a Vedantin's, second is a common man's, third is Mulavidya Vadin's. Out of these three, whose arguments are correct? So, atha purvoktayoh shanka samadhanayoh sarasarata vicharayishyate. Who is right and how far is right? This we have to discuss and determine. Prathamam tavat. Now, before we analyze their prakriyas, these three prakriyas and three standpoints just now I have told. Before we analyze these three prakriyas, first we should have certain norms of discussion. This is very important. There should be a norm of discussion. There should be certain rules about very discussion. Otherwise, there should be certain standards, certain rules about discussing. Otherwise, anybody claims anything and then anything is correct. Should there be a common agreed method of discussion which is agreeable to both? Then only we can discuss. Otherwise, each one has his own standards. I don't accept your standards and you don't accept my standards. Each one makes his own claims. Then ultimately, who is right? Who is true? Nobody can decide. It will be unnecessarily quarrel alone. This is what Swamiji is trying to say. It's very interesting because these days when people discuss, people just move away from the topic and then just bring anything, any norm and then start telling anybody is right. Anybody has got his own standards, his own arguments, his own way of arguing. Anyway, instead of my explanation, let us read the book. Swamiji himself brings out all these arguments. For example, Prathamam tavat kathayam pramanavakyodhaharanasthaladikam adhikritya kinchiduchyate. First, at what stage in the discussion should you bring a holy quotation of a holy book? Holy book or a holy man? People bring a quotation from the holy book and then decide based upon that. This is a finalized. See, when we are trying to discuss, suddenly somebody brings so and so Bible says that, Quran says that, or Veda says it, therefore this is right. Now, without proving anything, you just quote somebody's statement and say that yours is correct, declared as a correct. If each one quotes like that, then there is no room for discussion. It is something like a Quran. They say that it says it is a word of God, therefore you have to accept it. Now, no room for discussion. If you dispute it, then you will be committing blasphemy and we will kill you. Sar tan se juda. Now, then no room for discussion. If you just claim something on behalf of some book or some person, some saint or some guru, some acharya, and others are supposed to accept, no question, then no discussion goes on like that. Therefore, Swamiji says here, adhikritya kinchiduchyate yatohi adhunatanaha. Because these days we find people kechit anavalambhyaiva niyamasthitim kanchit, without following any norms, any rules of discussion, any standard of discussion. Sveshtanurodena. Sveshtanurodena means as they like it, as they wish. Yuktim vachanam va kathayam praveshayanto. See, there are two things. One is a quotation, a recitation from a book or from a saint. And second is giving an argument. Now, when to bring the argument, where you have to use the logic, logically argue, and when to bring the quotation. The problem that we see is when we are arguing logically, he suddenly brings a quotation. Then if you dispute the quotation, then he starts arguing, do you think you are greater than our book, greater than our acharya? Then that means it is only, he is not allowing you to talk. See, when we are discussing logically, some people bring the quotation. Or when we are bringing the quotation, he doesn't get a quotation, he is not able to produce a quotation, he jumps to argument. See, when you bring a quotation, some people do like that. When I bring a quotation, it is like that. He doesn't find a quotation, he doesn't know. How can that be like that? Such a thing doesn't exist. How can that be like that? See, when we are showing a quotation, talk on the quotation. And he says, he talks logically. When you bring the quotation, he talks logically. He brings logic. Or when we are discussing logically, he sets aside arguments and brings a quotation. That means between a quotation and an argument, when to bring what. Otherwise, when we are arguing, bringing the quotation, When we brought a quotation, you don't find, you are unable to produce a quotation, you bring an argument. You start arguing. If this way you say, then nothing can be decided. Unnecessary dispute goes on endlessly, nothing can be decided. Each one claims he alone is correct, then ultimately nothing is decided. And the very talking is useless. Whole this kind of dispute, this kind of debate goes waste. Therefore, sveshtanurodena yuktim vachanam va kathayam praveshayanto drishyante. This is what we see commonly people discussing. Yadahi vagvyavaharam pravartayato. When people are talking, vadi prativadino, opponent and what you call them? No, I think I have used some word. Even my English I forget, because we are not English people anyway. English is not our mother tongue. I'll just read out. Because some moderners are found to be arbitrarily bringing the arguments or quotations and not following any norm, any standard whatsoever. For instance, during a debate, if one of the participants puts forth his argument from his standpoint, and if another one finds fault with the former, taking a different standpoint of his own, then neither of the views can be established as the right, nor anything fruitful comes out of such a discussion. If one person talks from one standpoint, another person talks from another standpoint, there is no common ground. The idea is there should be a common ground. If one person talks from one level, another person talks from another level, there is no common ground to meet. By this kind of discussion, each one finds faults with the other. He says you are wrong and that person says he is wrong. Then unless there is a common ground, common law, they won't agree with each other, and then nothing comes out, nothing fruitful comes out of such a discussion. This is what Swamiji says. Yada vagvyavaharam pravartayato vadinoho prativadinoho ekam swabhiprayam eva ashritya kinchid atishtate. Taking his opinion means according to his opinion he wants to say something. Prativadi, the opponent says abhiprayantaram alamya. He has another view. An opponent has a different view, and according to his view he says something else. He dismisses, he condemns his view and he takes another view. Yatkinchid dushanam abhidadati. Then tada tayor anyatarasyapi pakshaha. Then about these two views, we cannot decide whose view is correct or wrong. Anyatarasyapi pakshaha samyakwena navyavatishtate. Between these two views, whose view is correct cannot be established as a, because one says from one standpoint, another says from another standpoint, another's view. Two views are there. Napi kinchit tattvam nirdharitam bhavati. By this kind of discussion, nothing is decided. No, nothing is decided as a true. You can't determine any fact, any ascertain anything. Tasmat, therefore, vade pramana vakya viniveshaha katham karaniyaha. Therefore, when to bring the quotations, then how to discuss, we have to discuss. First, this point we have to discuss and decide. Then agree certain common points of discussion. We have to determine certain common principles of common method of discussion. Then we will proceed with the discussion. See, two levels. One is we have to discuss about the very method of discussion. Okay. Then once this method is determined, commonly agreed, yes, this is agreeable to me, yes, this is agreeable to me. If both of them feel that this method is a agreeable method and it is a fruitful method, this will, with this something can be really determined. Then after the method is decided, after the method is determined, we can follow that method. Then we'll go to the main topic of discussing Vedanta. Okay, before we enter into the topic, first we'll discuss about the very method of discussion. This is also very interesting. I have never seen anywhere. Of course, it It might be present in some Tarkika Granthas, but here, particularly relevant to Vedantic discussion, this topic, there are general discussions in Tarka Shastra, but in Vedanta, the method of discussion relevant to Vedanta, I have never seen anywhere except what Swamiji says here. Let us go. Now, the other side, two people are taking standpoints. One person takes a stand like this. What is there to be determined? Now he first itself he objections. He says, where is the need to have a discussion about the very method of discussion? Where is the need? It is already well known. Let us proceed with directly discussing the topic. Why do you want to waste time in this discussing the very method of discussion? We all know, we have been discussing. Yes, we all know we have been discussing, we have been shouting, each one is talking from his own level. Generally, I see them, when you say one point, he doesn't understand what he wants to convey, he takes it from another standpoint and says something else. Secondary point he talks of. Then there is no common point at all. That's what is happening here. Now you see, Nanu kimatra nischetavyamasti, what is there to discuss? Because this person who is objecting to this very, holding this discussion. Okay? Now what is his view? Let us listen. Vedanta vicharatvat prakrutasya vishayasya. The present topic Atma Tattvam. The present topic is Atma Tattvam. Atma Tattvam is a subject matter of Vedanta. The present subject matter is the present topic, that is Atma Tattvam, is a subject matter of Vedanta. Yad Vedanta vakyaihi tatparyena upavarnyate tadeva tattvam bhavati tavadharyatam. So Vedantic statements unitedly, whatever they reveal harmoniously, all the Vedantic, Upanishadic, Vedanta means Upanishadic, all the Upanishadic statements are, all the statements in a given Upanishad, let us take it. All the statements in a given Upanishad unanimously, harmony, without contradicting each other. Okay? Without contradicting each other, all the statements unanimously, harmoniously point out one idea, means they have one message to convey. Unitedly, all the statements in an Upanishad, harmoniously, without contradicting with each other, have one single purport, one single message. We call it Tatparya. Purport is Tatparya. So, yad Vedanta vakyaihi tatparyena upavarnyate. What is as a final message, as a final purport, whatever is that final purport conveyed by, unitedly by all the statements in a Upanishad, that is the truth. What is there to dispute? Why should we discuss about the very method at all? This is well known. Because Atma Tattvam, the truth, the nature of the truth is a matter of Upanishads. Then Upanishads have got to say, they have got a final message to say, and then let us read Upanishads and the Upanishads convey the message. Over. We understood the truth. We shall understand the truth. Why you are unnecessarily taking up the topic of how to discuss at all and all those things unnecessary? Shruterhin, why? Why should we depend upon the Upanishad? And the final message, final purport of the Upanishad, conveyed unanimously by all the statements of the Upanishad, constitutes the truth. Because the truth is the subject matter of Vedanta, Upanishad. So Vedantas decide these things. And one more argument he says, Shruterhi nityatvena paurushayatva bhavat pramada vipralipsadi purusha dosha rahityena pramanantaranadi gata vishaye pramanyam avasyam tasya angikaryam. We have to accept Upanishads or the Veda. We have to accept the Upanishad as Veda as the final authority. Final and indisputable authority is the Veda. Therefore, whatever Veda says, that is final. We have no room for any other discussion. We don't accept anybody. Because Veda is the final. Shruteri, why? Why should we accept Upanishad or Veda? Both are same. So why should he is giving an argument, because what Upanishad says is the final authority. Because Nityatvena, he gives two arguments for the validity or authority of the Veda. Veda is an authority because, or Veda is a valid means of knowledge. Pramana, let us call Pramana. Veda is a Pramana, means a valid Pramana, because it is Nitya and Apaurushaya. Two things he is bringing. Veda is a Nitya because it is eternal. Paurushayatva Abhavat. Second, it is not humanly composed. It is not humanly authored. It is of superhuman origin. Okay, two characters, two features or two characters of the Veda, he says. One is an eternity of the Veda. Another is it is of superhuman origin. It is not authored by a human being. It is not an authored book, authorless. Apaurushaya he is calling in Sanskrit. We can translate it as authorless, or it is a unauthored by a human being. Not authored by a human being. Okay? It is not authored by a human being, authorless, or not authored by a human being. Or in other words, it is of superhuman origin. This is called Apaurushaya, not authored by a human being. Okay. Nitya, and it is also, Veda is also eternal. Therefore, if it were authored by a human being, what would be the problem? See, a book which is authored by a human being suffers from certain defects. Okay? What is authored by a human being suffers from certain defects. What are those defects? One is pramada, vipralipsa. One is pramada. Pramada means mistakes, because human being might commit mistakes, because after all it is human nature. It is human nature that we are likely to commit mistakes. If a book is authored by a human being, he is likely to commit mistakes. One is pramada. Second is vipralipsa. Vipralipsa means fraud. Intentionally he wants to cheat somebody or mislead somebody. And because people have such motive, because you want to claim superiority to yourself, so you are motivated. Vipralipsa means motivated, simply. One is mistake is one thing. Vipralipsa is motivated. Agenda. You are motivated by an agenda. Because these are all human beings. So people have their own over enthusiasm, over interests, egos. So one is mistakes, which can happen to any human being. Second is he has got a motive or an agenda. I want to prove my point, or I want to say that this alone is right. So you have a motive, you have an agenda. So in Sanskrit we call pramada is an inadvertence or a mistake. So the difference between these two is, in mistake happens unintentionally. Because vipralipsa is an intentional. You have an intention, you have a motive. Either due to motive or due to unintentional mistake. So if a human being authors a book, these two are, there are few more books also. Pramada, vipralamba, karana, apatava, like this. In our Sanskrit tradition there are few more mistakes. Swamiji took mainly two mistakes, ityadi, etc. he told. These are the mistakes, likely mistakes. Purusha dosha rahityena. But if Veda being eternal and authorless, it is not composed by, authored by any human being. Therefore, Veda is free from these likely defects. If it were authored by a human being, these mistakes are likely. These defects are likely. So Veda being eternal, not authored by any human being, hence it is free from these defects. Therefore, pramana antara anadigata vishaye, regarding the matter which is not known by other means of knowledge like perception and inference, by pratyaksha and anumana. The topic, the subject which is not known by perception and inference, because Atma, Paramatma, these things cannot be known by perception and inference. So, pramanantara anadigata vishaye, pramanyam avashyam tasyaha angikaryam. Therefore, we must accept Veda alone as the valid means of knowledge. Tathacha vadinor madhye, between the disputants, between the two disputants, okay, vadinor madhye, among the disputants, where is this letter? Modern philosopher criticizes like this. Continued, somewhere I missed the point, just a minute. Whosoever view is true to the Veda, between the two disputants, or two or three, any number, whose view, whosoever siddhanta, whosoever view is true to the Veda, according to Veda, vadinor madhye yaha shruti sammatam paksham ashrayate tasyaiva pakshasya sadhuta. Whoever bases his siddhanta, his conclusion upon Veda, his view should be accepted as the right view, and others' views should be discarded as wrong. This is how the authority is settled. The quotation, whose quotation we should bring, is clear. Who is telling? One person, one scholar is talking. We have to evaluate. We have to evaluate even these arguments. Okay, vadinor madhya shruti sammatam paksham ashrayate. One who bases for his siddhanta, for his conclusion, one who bases his conclusion upon the Veda. That means based upon Veda, he draws a conclusion, and he makes his siddhanta depend on Veda, and his should be accepted as a final authority for all, without any questioning, without any dispute. Okay. Tasyaiva pakshasya sadhuta taditarasya. One who doesn't depend upon Veda should be rejected outright. That's all. Because not even should be considered. Iti vyavastha susta. Thus, the method of discussion is very clear. Because how to discuss whose we should accept is clear. Now let us go to the Veda. Whatever Veda says, that is the truth. It is decided over. Why do you bring unnecessarily this necessity to dispute and discussion and all that? It is bhavishyati iti. To this, Swamiji answers. This is the question. This is his argument. Swamiji answer, bhave devam yadi nityatve paurushayatva vadi pratipattir nasyat. Okay, it would have been right. What you said would have been a settled conclusion. What you say would have been a settled conclusion. But unfortunately, we are unable to accept it. It is not a settled conclusion because there are disputes about it. What are there are the disputes about the eternity of the Veda and authorlessness of the Veda. Apaurushayatvam we call. Paurusheya, man-made, authored by a human being. Non-authored or authorless. Non-authored, not authored by a human being is one character, and eternity is another character. And Swamiji says, regarding the Veda, these two characters which you have described, people are disputing these two characters. One is the eternity of the Veda, people are disputing. Who? Even among the Indians, even among the Hindus, there is a dispute about the eternity of the Veda. So, he says, Nityatve, Apaurushayatva, both. Regarding Nityatva as well as Apaurushayatva, about not being authored by human being. That means non-authoredness, authorlessness or non-authoredness. I don't know how to express that in English. Apaurusheyata, non-authored, a condition, a state of being not authored. If you translate literally Sanskrit word, a state of being not authored, apaurusheyatva. Okay, so apaurusheyatva, not being authored by any human being, vadivit pratipattar nasyat. If there were no dispute about these things, if the eternity of the Veda, authorlessness of the Veda had been unanimously accepted by all people, then what you say would have been settled. What you say would have been accepted and the problem is settled. But unfortunately, it is not settled. There is a problem. What is that? Nacha isha nasti. Because moderners as well as the ancient Sanskrit scholars centuries before, millennia before, 1000 years ago, 2000 years ago also there was dispute. Even more than 2000 years ago, there is a dispute about eternity of the Veda. Among the scholars, there has been a dispute. First, let us go point by point. Let us take about the eternity of the Veda. Evam adhunatananamapi purveshamiva. Just as there is a dispute among the ancestors, even among the moderners also, this dispute continues like before. It is not yet settled, unanimously not agreed. This dispute is there even now. Adhunatananamapi vadinam bahulam vipratipatti darshana. There is a lot of vipratipatti. Widely disagree on this point. Now tell me, what can we do? Na evam hi vadinor adhunatana vadanti. Now coming to the eternity of the Veda. Regarding the eternity of Veda, this is the dispute. What is that? Purveshamiva adhunatanaha vadinam bahulam vipratipatti darshanat. Evam hi vadino adhunatana vadanti. Moderners say like that. Say like this. What is this? Nityatve shruti pramani kriyate. To say, to establish the eternity of the Veda, what do? You quote the very Veda. You quote the very Veda for its eternity. Shruti pramanyaya cha nityatva siddhi. See, to say that Veda is a valid means of knowledge, you say it is eternal. Therefore, Veda being eternal, it is a valid means of knowledge. Okay, but how do you prove eternity? By quoting the same Veda, you try to prove eternity. See, is it not a mutual dependence? Mutual dependence. Nityatve shruti pramani kriyate. You quote the very shruti, vacha virupaya nityaya. There is a Vedic statement. Our traditionally orthodox people, even Sayanacharya, everybody says, vacha virupaya nityaya. See, Veda is a avirupa nitya. Veda doesn't modify and eternal. Nityavak. Veda is considered as a Nityavak. Who? The very Veda says that. Vacha virupaya nityaya. Is a Nitya and avirupa. It doesn't change. So, to prove the eternity, you are quoting the very Veda. That means you are taking the authority of the Veda. Taking the authority of the Veda for eternity. So, nityatve shruti pramani. Then how do you say the shruti is valid? Because it is eternal. Since Veda is eternal, it is valid. It is valid authority. And it's a very valid authority. The Veda itself says that it is eternal. Is it not mutual dependency? The eternity, if eternity was established independently, then we would have accepted, oh, it is eternal, therefore it is, it's eternally valid. Its authority is valid. But the very authority, before you establish its eternity, you are taking it as valid already. You are taking it as already as a valid and quoting the Veda to prove its eternity. First you prove its authority, then I'll accept Vedic statement that Veda is eternal. Veda is trying to say that it is eternal, but to accept Vedic word eternity, first to prove the Veda's authority, Vedic validity, prove its validity first. So it is a mutual dependency. Eternity is stated by Veda and validity is accepted because of its eternity. It's a mutual dependency. That means these two things should be established independently, one of them at least. Then the other one will become established. So they are becoming mutually dependent, none of them is established. First establish the Vedic validity. Then if Veda says eternal, we will accept it. Or establish its eternity. Then it is valid, we will accept it. Now you have not established eternity. If it were eternal, then its validity would be accepted. Without proving eternity, you are taking it as valid. And then the same Veda says that it is eternal, you are accepting. It is a mutual dependency, not proven. Okay? Assumptions, both are assumptions. Veda is valid because it is eternal is an assumption. Veda is an eternal because it is valid. Both are assumptions. One assumption you are giving as a proof of another assumption. Both are assumptions. How do you know Veda is valid? Because it is eternal. But how do you know it is eternal? Because the same Veda says. But Veda is not proven. Veda is not yet proven as valid. How can it prove its eternity? Both are assumptions. Therefore, this argument was brought by our ancestors thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago, 2000 years ago, even before Christ. And even now, that argument is continuing. Therefore, Nityatve Shruti Pramani Kriyate, Shruti Pramanyaya cha Nityatva Siddhirapekshita iti Paraspara Apekshanam. Mutual dependency Sputam Veda Nityatvavade. Regarding the eternity of Veda, this mutual dependency, that means both are assumptions alone, nothing is proven. Okay, next point, coming to the authorlessness. Okay, Apaurushayatvapi. Now coming to the authorlessness, that it is not authored by a human being. Regarding this point also again there are arguments and disputes. What is that? Kim Purusha Sambandha Matrat Pramanatva Vighatakam Utaho Pramanantaropalabdha Prakashakatvaditi Vivektavyam. What is authorlessness? I think time is up. We will discuss it. It goes on. There are many points. This authorlessness is a big topic. If I start now, it will go on after 15-20 minutes. We will discuss tomorrow. Daily we will discuss some 40 minutes or so, 30 to 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, we will continue this tomorrow. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.